Today I want to talk about Lincoln Riley and Tom Herman and their coaching salaries and why Lincoln Riley is making less than Tom Herman. Oh, it's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always sports related. We have a good time. Shout out to Jonathan Inglis because, well, I made a new friend. But check it. Tom Herman makes $6.75 million. Lincoln Riley makes $6.384. So call it 6.4, right? Because what's $16,000 when you're talking about $6.4 million? Now, you understand right away, Tom Herman is the highest paid coach in the Big 12. Followed by Lincoln Riley by about, depending on how you want to cut it up, $400,000, right? So why is this so? Because if you look at what Lincoln Riley has done, you'll see all he's done as a head coach is win back-to-back Big 12 championships and make the college football playoff. And he has put together a remarkable run of wins and losses, including undefeated in the month of November as we are going into the last game for Oklahoma on the calendar in October. And OU has not made it through the month of October undefeated since 2004. He has put two Heisman Trophy winners on the podium, and he has seen two number one overall draft picks, to say nothing of Marquise Brown going into the first round and Cody Ford being drafted in the second round, and the way that he's been able to keep this staff together. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind here. Lincoln Riley, one, had not had the head coaching experience that Tom Herman had before he took the Texas job and before Lincoln Riley was promoted and basically handpicked by Bob Stoops to be his successor. Two, Lincoln Riley has to pay his assistant coaches, particularly guys like Bill Bedenbaugh, who really make his offense go. He has had continuity at all of his positions that he's wanted to keep together. He didn't see guys take other jobs. He's seen guys say, no, we want to continue to do what we're doing at Oklahoma. That means outside receivers coach Dennis Simmons. That means special teams and running backs coach Jay Boulware. That means adding Shane Beamer as the 10th assistant, who also coaches H-backs and has helped tremendously with the special teams. That means, of course, Bill Bedenbaugh, who ought to win a Broyles Award at some point, the way that he's been able to coach this offensive line year in, year out to being one of the best in the country. And OU has been consistently one of the better rushing teams in the country and one of the better offenses historically. Also talking about Cale Gundy, a guy that has been around Oklahoma since the early 90s. I mean, we're talking about coming up on 30 years of experience working, playing at Oklahoma, knows where the bodies are buried. I think Cale is fast becoming the Merv Johnson of OU football, if you will. I also think that he was a big reason as to why these recruiting classes have been so good. He was also the guy that took Lincoln on the recruiting trail with him when Riley was first taking over the offensive coordinator job. They all believe in him. They've all wanted to stay around him. He's also been able to keep Calvin Thibodeau on at defensive line. And when it came time to pay a defensive coordinator to replace the guy he fired, Mike Stoops, he had to go and give Alex Grinch the $1 million+ to be the head guy in charge and pay Brian Odom what he's worth to coach linebackers and, of course, Roy Manning to coach the corners. So a lot of this money has to be spread out, while also bearing in mind there's always going to be chatter about what it is that Lincoln Riley is able to do and what it means for him to be at Oklahoma versus being in the NFL. All of this is fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me because Lincoln Riley has yet to win a national championship. Neither is Tom Herman, right? And we could talk about Tom Herman going 10-4 and beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. We could also talk about him getting the one win against Oklahoma last year. And I contend that beating that Oklahoma team in the Red River rivalry is what catapulted them into the Rose Bowl. If they don't win that game, they don't play in the Big 12 championship, and they don't get an opportunity to win that Sugar Bowl, not the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. The Rose Bowl was Oklahoma. Ugh. Now, all of this is, of a piece because Lincoln Riley is a top 10 paid head coach. Now, you could talk about, has he done what others have done, like Kirby Smart and coached in a national championship? No. Has he done what Gus Malzahn has done, which is coach and win a national championship, even as an offensive coordinator? That matters. Lincoln Riley has not done that. Tom Herman has done that. That's how I can also see this. When you go get Tom Herman from Houston, you know that he won a championship at Ohio State as an offensive coordinator. So you think you're hiring one of the best offensive minds in football. And I still think that they have that in Tom Herman down there. I also think that, yes, the titles matter. Dabo Swinney is the highest paid coach in college football today because the titles matter. Nick Saban, because the titles matter. Now you're getting fishy with me when you talk about Jimbo Fisher and Jim Harbaugh, but those are also in two different conferences, and Jim Harbaugh has coached in a Super Bowl. Jimbo Fisher has won a national championship. So all of this stuff, I think, is bearing out in the wash, and Lincoln Riley's going to get everything that he's worth year in and year out. And if he goes and makes another college football playoff, wins a 5th straight Big 12 championship, and his 3rd as a head coach in a row, yes, absolutely, he's going to see another raise, and he's going to see his assistants get other raises as well, if not get poached. Because a lot of these guys are contenders for head coaching jobs. I'm talking about Bill Bedenbaugh. If he wanted a job, he could have it. Cale Gundy, if he wanted an OC job somewhere else, he could have it. Dennis Simmons could move up. You could also talk about Jay Boulware moving somewhere else to be somebody's coordinator, whether it be special teams or offense. And Alex Grinch, his name is being bandied about along with Shane Beamer's for jobs in coaching. Now, Shane Beamer's has been tied to like Old Dominion and a couple of MAC schools, and I think that he's going to bide his time and wait for a really good job to come along as opposed to just move back home because he came up, obviously, in Blacksburg, Virginia Tech, is the son of Frank Beamer, really great coach who retired a few years ago with the Hokies and is now on the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. But I also think that Alex Grinch would have the same sort of opportunities, and he's a guy that's been talked about for Michigan State, right? If Mark D'Antonio gets fired at the end of the season based on what they've done. I don't see why he would get fired except to say that the off-the-field stuff is catching up with him. He's going to actually be called into court at the end of the season, and Michigan State athletics is a dumpster fire unto itself. And I don't know what this means for Alex Grinch, except maybe he would want to take a MAC school that's closer to home, having grown up in Ohio. Maybe if there was a Miami of Ohio job, he might look at it, or Ohio University, he might look at it. But I just don't see it as for now. I think for these guys, they need to win a college football playoff semifinal game, and then all bets are off. Then we can talk about anybody doing anything except Lincoln Riley. I think Lincoln Riley wants to win a national championship at Oklahoma before he does anything else. And then maybe he'll do the Nick Saban thing where he goes to the pros and figures out, I don't like this at all, because what things that Lincoln Riley does well is recruit. And that really is how you separate when you're talking about these Power 5 jobs and these jobs in which we expect you to win. We're talking about Jim Harbaugh being 5-2 with losses to Wisconsin, right, which is a really good football team, though they lost to Illinois, and a loss to Penn State, who's undefeated. And we're talking about an exit strategy for him going back to the NFL. That's how close the margins are on all this and how the optics matter. But if you're going to be good, you got to do what Harbaugh's done, what Jimbo Fisher has done, what Dabo Swinney has done, what Nick Saban has done, what Malzahn to an extent has done, what Orgeron is renowned for doing, what Tom Herman has done. You have to recruit. You have to love it. You have to be on your phone. You have to be willing to go to these places in and around the country to try to find talent that, fits your program, but also might fit somebody else's, and flat out outsail whomever comes in that living room. That's why I think Mac Brown at North Carolina is working out so quickly. He's being able to sell these kids on his vision for North Carolina and how they can succeed there. Also was able to go get a couple of outstanding coordinators. Jay Bates took from Army, and of course Phil Longo took from Ole Miss. And I think they're going to be good in the next couple of years and challenge Clemson in a real way. So we'll see. But that's the explanation. That's why Tom Herman makes more money than Lincoln Riley. He's got a ring. And Texas has more money than Oklahoma, because Texas has more money than anybody in college football. And they always do the least with the most. But we're talking about $400,000 here. We're not talking about $2 million. And then if it was that, we'd have a problem. All right, that is it for me. Deuces.